So that was all going on. But at the same time, I needed to write songs. So I'd be walking along like the railroad tracks between Laureldale and Temple, and I'd have an acoustic folk guitar that I had got from a girlfriend, and we broke up, and I never gave it back. Sorry. and that guitar served me well because I had a little microphone at that point, a little mini tape deck thing, and I'd stuff the microphone into the sound hole of the guitar, and I'd walk the rails because I was told, I had read that the black bluesmen, the real guys, the real musicians, like Robert Johnson and all these guys, and the bluesmen, they listened to the rhythm of the railroad track, like and they use that for their beats. And so I thought, well, this must be the way you do it, because, there was no class on this. So I did that, and I would walk back and forth between my grandparents' place in Temple and my place in Laureldale and write songs, record songs, and some of those riffs I'd use later on when I actually got into, like, high school bands, music bands. Thing about Muhlenberg, too, was it was really unique was we have a lot of guys now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that came.
Yeah.
Mike Anderson, Mike Eben, of course, Freddie Bernardo, Terry Trett, so many guys. They were in the class just a couple years older than me, so they were even more influenced than me. But I can recall being in Muhlenberg High School, and I wanted to get a better guitar. And so I was asking around because, I had to buy it myself, so I got a job at a hamburger joint called Carol's, so I could work enough. I'd work the midnight shift so I could buy a guitar and a pair of skis. That was my priorities. And a fringed leather jacket. Those are my three big priorities. And somebody said, you got to buy a guitar from Fred. I said, well, really? Yeah, he sells guitars. He'll come to the parking lot. Fred used to, before he had his store in North 9th Street, he would come to the Muhlenberg and stuff, and he'd have guitars in his trunk of his car.
Interesting. He didn't tell us that when we interviewed him.
That goes way back. What a great guy. His mother also, he came from Italian background. I have pictures of his mother dressed in this amazing costume. She was like a showgirl, just like my mom was. The similarities are amazing. And we all ended up out there in Muhlenberg. And so Muhlenberg is a great place. One of the most legendary dance places you could go during that era was the dances at C.E. Cole, which was then a junior high school. But boy, the dances at C.E. Cole, if you didn't play there, you weren't cool. And like in my era, I went there to see guys like Fred play, and Mike Anderson, and Dewey Wall, and guys like that. And so, fast forwarding, in these different bands, blah, 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 blah. Got a lot of great high school bands, guys that I still see now that we'll have reunions with down the road. Dave Mell, got to play with him, and Rick Schmale and all these guys. And, we had a group called Paragon, then Night Flight. Then I was in a band with Mickey Fisher, who's in our Hall of Fame. And that band had several iterations called, like, one was Panda, and one was, I don't even remember, Tiger Rose. He had all these crazy names. That band was cool because we only pretty much played original music. That's really where my interest lied, but I found out pretty soon that there wasn't a whole big market for, when you went to play a high school dance, or you went to play the Hamburg Fieldhouse, or St. Lawrence Stadium, or any of the big venues, or even the clubs like Rasputin, you could maybe get away with one or two original songs, unless you were an established artist, right? If you were just your regular, what we call garage band, trying to come up through the scene, they wanted to hear the hits, and rightfully so. I like to hear the hits. Even when I go to see somebody like Paul McCartney, I like to hear his hits. It's okay if he plays some new music.
Sure.
I'll give you an example. I went to see Aerosmith one time in a huge concert down at the Mann Music Center, and they had just released a retro album of blues stuff, which, by the way, did not sell well at all. You don't ever hear anything more about it. They decided to play like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of that, and people just like completely didn't like it, even though it was great. If you would ever hear them play that out, somebody would be like, oh man, you guys rock. But it wasn't, Dream On and
sure.
Right. So anyway, then I was kind of getting disenchanted with it because, we would get jobs, but it was like your fire companies and that kind of stuff, and people didn't care about the original music, and my heart was in original music. And so then I saw an ad or whatever for the band called Zeus, run by Jerry Garrett. And those guys were professional touring musicians from here in Reading. And I'll tell you what, they started from nothing and worked their way up, and I give them all the credit in the world because that was the first band I actually toured with. I went, my tryout, my rehearsal to sing in that band was at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. Now, if you lived through that era, having that tryout there for anybody else, that'd be like, if you're in New York, that'd be like going to try out at like the Met or something. Like this place that was like this revered hall, this hallowed hall of rock and roll that we'd go to see Chuck Ko sing, and the girls would swoon over these guys, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, someday I want to be like him and them, and I want to play at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. So my tryout was at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. Very intimidating for me. And they wanted me to sing a couple songs, but during that era, there were these crazy, like, high-pitched singers, and they were special effects, and were starting to be used in production by this time. So, like, I could sing Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin stuff. I have a decent range. I do exercises to work on that. But this group, Boston, was out. You know the song More Than a Feeling? Mm-hmm. More Than a Feeling. Ah! It's like, oh my God, I sound like somebody killed a cat in a grinder. It's awful. But somehow I made it through that. And we toured for a couple years with a big old bus, like a giant beer bus filled with equipment and lights. And God bless Jerry, man. He'd take like 2.5 hours to set up this sound and this lights. And then at least probably an hour and a half to tear it down every show. So we didn't have roadies, really. We might have had one. And we'd drive for hours. We were playing the Finger Lakes circuit. That was a certain circuit up there, right above the Finger Lakes. We would play certain clubs around New York City. Like we were playing a place called Nyack, New York, when Son of Sam was out there murdering people. And this was not the experience I quite expected. Like, so we'd go to play a club and be like, now don't forget Son of Sam's here, so keep your eyes open. And like, really? Seriously? This was going all over the place. We played the Jersey Shore. That was highly competitive. But it gave me a lot of great experiences. And, our big truck, I can remember one time it broke down. We were at a place called Shaker Park. I think that was in Massachusetts somewhere, and it was a cold, freezing night. And the truck broke down, so 2 of the guys found a way to go. They were going to get somebody repaired. So another couple of us, I think it was myself and Rick Cataldi, or myself and the keyboard player it was, yeah. I don't know if it was John Cooper at that time or it was a guy by the name of Ed. I think it was Ed. We slept over in the park. Now, we didn't have any sleeping beds. We froze. We had like a piece of toast. We toasted in the morning. That was the rock and roll lifestyle, okay? What I'm telling you that for, it sure didn't seem like it seemed for the Beatles. So I was starting to have second thoughts about it, as much as I loved it. I met a girl, I fell in love, this is what happens to a lot of us, and I went off and had a normal career, normal, vocation, several different things, and that's all great and good, and for me, that was my path, but I never let go of music. What I did is I throttled back, and I got more involved with folk music, and then bluegrass music, and carried the energy that I had loved from rock and roll into bluegrass, and we actually built up a huge following for a while of bluegrass fans. We'd play any place we could play. I'd walk into a place, they'd have like a 6x8 corner. I'd say we can set up right there and we can make you money. And that was the key. That's another thing I learned as a business person, as a musician. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, we can make you money. We'll make you money. We won't charge you a lot of money. We'll make you money. We just want to fill our schedule. So that went on for quite a long time, and that was fun. That was everything you'd expect from bluegrass and boot stomping music and rowdiness. I mean, we played places already where there was that, you see the quintessential Hollywood barroom scene fight, the barroom brawl breakout. Lived through some of those, lived through a time when another brawl broke out at a place, the 5th Street, the South Street Saloon, I think it was called, where we played in front of a giant picture window. So it was the audience, the stage, and then this picture window. Well, we see this fight break out, and it's like the whirling dervish and the Tasmanian devil. You just see arms and stuff flying around, and it starts coming towards us. Usually people didn't mess with it, so we just got out of the way. Next thing you know, there's a guy flying through the air. He goes right through the plate glass window and out onto the street. I was like... So there's all that kind of stuff too, and that happened with rock and roll. Preceding the time that I kind of got away from rock and roll and went to the bluegrass and folk music stuff and folkloric stuff, I worked with the Hunch Boogie Band, crazy guys like Vince Zirkovich, just an amazing guitar player, just a guy that was, he had the music in him. And Mick Snook, that's when I met Mick Snook, who's a member of our Hall of Fame. Mick, an amazing harmonica player and singer and entertainer. And Brian Webster and Terry Trout and Dean Strauss and the guy by the name of Jesse Kline. They were in a band that preceded that. Jesse and Terry and Dean and Brian. I think the band was called Zachariah, I think. And so I would go around with them a lot. And that's when I really decided I needed to sing and so forth and do more. So anyway, just that's the whole mashup of my history. But it was all inspired by the Beatles. Like the Beatles came, I'll close this story by saying, going way back, the first name of that band I told you where the guy was playing the broom and I was playing the drums and singing. And we had our gold medallions and our blue shirts, Nehru shirts. In that era, we'd play at this one place. It was the Bright Bill place in Laureldale. And we played for Melody Bright Bill's birthday party, the oldest girl. And the mother was a really wonderful, kindly woman, encouraging woman. Her name was Dorothy Bright Bill. And at one point, everybody was downstairs doing something. We were going to break, and they had a player piano upstairs. But you could also play it like a piano. So I was kind of like diddling around with the piano. Yeah, because I had some accordion lessons. So it's kind of the same thing, just laid over. So I was messing around with stuff. And she says to me, this is the first time anybody ever asked me. You know, I might have been like 12, whatever. She says to me, well, David, you seem to like music. You know, what do you really want to be when you grow up? It's the first time anybody, you know how people ask you that? Sometimes they ask you that in a job interview. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What kind of question is that? She says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I looked at her, I thought for like 5 seconds. And I looked dead in the eyes and I said, I want to be the Beatles. And then I went home and I told my mom, I want to be a rock and roll musician. And she didn't say no. Mm-hmm. And some people say, she should have pushed you more towards the college path or this or that path or whatever. And she took it seriously. She would even make costumes for us. There's a picture there of me wearing one of the costumes she made. She'd make costumes for all the guys in Zeus. So, you know, she was encouraging that way, which was great. And, yeah. So I'm rambling on. Yeah, there you go.
Well, so you're still doing it. I mean,
still doing it.
To this day, you helped organize the Berks Country Fest and the Magical History Tour, and you're really kind of like the music guy here in Berks County.
Oh, thanks.
So your legacy kind of lives on.
So
all that we do.
So I love all kinds of music. Some of it's a little harder for me to understand than others. Like on the way in, I was listening to a rap channel, and it was, yeah, we're all adults here, right? Coming down your street, gonna get you, bitch. Come on down the street, you act like a witch. And I'm thinking like, ooh, man, I'm not sure that's a song I want to sing to a woman. You know, but whatever, you know, each culture has its own thing. I prefer to sing the love songs like, I love you dearly, truly, you drive me, you send me, baby. But whatever. No, I love all kinds of music. I have been, had the privilege and the honor to have worked with music in this community and beyond almost every genre you can think of. And to me, I just love that. I don't like being pigeonholed and put into one box. Mm-hmm. So I've been the marketing chairperson and the vice president and the president of the Reading Symphony Orchestra. That's something I'm really proud in when you consider that my grandfather used to play first chair violin for them. Yeah, and during my era there, we had a lot of profound, new, wonderful things. We brought him into the internet era and recording. And one of my beliefs that I told them was, listen, it's great to be a band that plays, but my true belief is that you need to document this in some way. You need to preserve the history of this, and really, you need to get your art like an artist paints, gets it on canvas. You need to get it on vinyl. It was vinyl then, right? You need to get it on vinyl, or you need to make a CD. So we really, a resurgence of that happened then, and they made a CD. And you need to be creative. And for 1998, Reading's Bicentennial, the 250th anniversary, we commissioned a composer that the maestro Sidney Rothstein selected, and he wrote this amazing piece. And the children's part of it is just really special. I hope somebody will play it again sometime. It's just gorgeous. I have a recording of it at home, and of course I have one of the original manuscripts of it. But now in my career, I've gotten to perform with the Reading Symphony Orchestra. They've performed some symphonic works that I wrote. One called Long Live the Eagle, but also I got to perform and narrate Peter and the Wolf with them, a children's thing called Tubby the Tuba, which is just an absolute delight. I modeled myself after an older actor by the name of Danny Kaye, that you might not recognize his name, but if you go back and you watch these people, I say these names because we're documenting this. I say these names so if somebody watches this 20 years from now, and I say the name Danny Kaye, I hope that you'll go back on the internet and research and find these artists doing their thing. These artists, some of them who came out of vaudeville, and they perfected their craft because they lived and died by a live audience then. And if you didn't do it, you got booted or yanked off the stage with a hook. So if you can learn from people like that, those are pretty good mentors, because there's no college for this really, okay? So, and I've performed with the Ringgold Band now. I've performed with the Reading Pops Orchestra, the Reading Philharmonic Orchestra. I have a great passion and interest for ethnomusicology, so that's the ethnicity and folkloric aspects of all folk music and roots music, and whether it's African rhythms to Latino salsa, merengue, to Irish Celtic music or Polish polkas. It's great stuff, or Americana bluegrass. And I love to talk about it, I love to sing it, I love to perform it. And of course I love rock and roll. There's nothing like it. You know, give me Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard anytime. I'm good, I'm set. And of course the Beatles.
Well, that's quite quite a history you have there, Dave. It's really incredible, and we thank you for all that you've done for the History Center, helping to build the Berks County Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Magical History Tour, and that's, you know, kind of the reason we're all here right now.
So can I just drop in a word about that to just
Sure.
bring that
Yeah,
full
yeah.
circle? So your first question was, how did this all come to be? So then you guys were doing this great exhibit, so I said to Simon, hey, I had a brainstorm. Let's do a concert. Let's call it the Magical History Tour. Let's do something that's era-specific, basically music from the 60s and 70s. I bet I could gather up some of the old musicians, you know, and my point in gathering up those musicians was that we come together in peace and love as brothers and sisters, and be proud of our accomplishments as musicians that contributed to not only the history of music in Berks County, but also some of them, many of them, elsewhere, you know? And so you guys at the History Center loved that idea. You embraced that idea. You helped to bring it alive. We had the concert. With the concert came this wonderful exhibit and all this joy of people knowing. And now when you see that some of our brothers and sisters are passing away, it's become more poignant and it's become very real. You know, sometimes there's jealousies and pettiness in all arts or business or whatever, and people say, oh, you know, they want to discount it. Oh, that's dumb. That's what is that all about? And those voices have been silenced now. They're starting to see through the years that this is a fair and equitable thing, and it's done out of love here. Love of music and love of our brothers and sisters, and for those of us who are musicians and just can't help it, you know, I can tell you, I can guarantee you that part of what motivates us is not any money, it's not the fame game. Those are nice trappings. It is the ability to communicate with a person in the audience and take them on some kind of a journey that gets them out of their normal workaday life's trials and tribulations. You know, the best thing that could ever be said to me from somebody at a show is like, hey, thanks a lot, man. Like, I had a great time. I didn't think about anything that was on my mind for the last hour. I just had fun. Well, that's gold. That's the gift. That's what comes down. That's what's transcendent from God or whatever you believe in, you know. And so that's, to me, what this is all about. And I'm just sitting back like a proud dad saying, like, wow, this is coming together nicely. This video series that you and Bob Yost are doing, you know, it's priceless. It really is.
Yeah, it's been a really fun journey, and we thank Bob as well for all his work, and this is really his brainchild as well. So all these people coming together to make this a community, really, you know, and it's fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, and we thank everybody that comes out and sees the shows and comes and sees the exhibit and comes and supports the Berks History Center, because this is really what it's all about. It's saving this. We're not going to be around forever. Nobody is. But these things, these artifacts, will be around for a long, long time after us. So these are our stories. Thanks for listening to them and share them, and I hope someday that my grandchildren and great-grandchildren get to see these things so they know. If it inspires one person to do something good instead of something bad, to be a force for light instead of darkness, then we've done our job.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you.